G'day guys, Makey with the Outer Circle, and today, 2500 point Thousand Suns 2.0. Let's just call it that at this point in time. Maybe I'll come up with something snappier for the video title. Alright. Let's talk about alternate rites of war and that kind of thing. So the other day I spoke about the basic list, bit of downsides that it had, the fact that it was low on model count, such and such. This right here is actually a lot more than 2,500 points. Let's just get that out of the way. This is about 3 and a bit thousand. So what I've got here is an array of different units. Different compulsory HQ options, different Praevian options, different elites choices here. One having the benefit of scoring and multiple wounds, the other one being just cool. Dreadnoughts, of course. Different type of dreadnought. If I want to use one of my Contemptor dreadnoughts, perhaps, to replace one of the Mortis box dreads, for instance. So, choices. I have choices here. Now, what do? Well, this is the rationale that I go through whenever I build a list. I have the fluff in mind, I have things I want to achieve with it, and then I've got to think about how do I achieve it. If I take the Sekhmet Terminators, then a Cataphractii Armoured Praetor, not really the go. Now I can say that this guy here is in Tartarus armour. No one would probably give a shit either, because it's such stylized armour anyway. If I said that he was in Tartarus rather than Cataphractii, so at least they could sweep after combat. That said, I'm not a huge fan of using Sekhmet in general, so I could go for the Hennetai Blade Occult. Now if I did that, I get other problems. If I want to run a Praetor, for example, I could use the actual Araman, or this one here that I converted up, which I like much more because it's a lot more dynamic, it's telling its own story. It's not just that derpy fucking monopose Araman that I hate. Or maybe I could go with the lovely Amon miniature. Not as Amon, but just as a counts as Praetor of some description. I could perhaps go with a Delegatus, because a Delegatus consul will still allow me to use the Rites of War available to the Legion. And it does unlock veterans as troops, which may be an option, which I haven't really explored yet. Or I could go with the Chaplain. This is, of course, the Chaplain I built for the army, which uses, for those who are interested about parts, 40k headdress out of the Sorcerer's pack, which goes onto the power armor itself, not the helmet. Araman's backpack. Again, you can pick up Araman really cheap on eBay, so I've got a heap of Aramans just sent to me by mates anyway. A Hennetai Blade Occult head and arms. And that guy makes a pretty cool Chaplain, because you get a Crozius, and the other weapon can be his force weapon, and you know, you can use him in sync and get bonus attacks and all that good stuff. Downside is, you take a Chaplain, you lose that ability to take a Rite of War, and the 3 mastery levels of the Praetor is so good, which basically means I don't want to take either of these 2 consuls. Especially if I don't take these Terminators, because they have 2 psychic mastery levels, and I need the power dice and the dispel dice. So if I take the Hennetai Blade Occult, who pretty cool chaps, this is the squad sergeant converted up. Just gave him like this staff style Khopesh, just because I thought he needed to stand out a little more from the guys around him. Yeah, if I take those guys, they're only a mastery level 1 Brotherhood of Psychers, which sort of, it's a lot worse than the Sekhmet. And these guys, for a whole squad, the points difference between them and the Sekhmet gain an additional wound. Now, they don't get the bonuses that Hennetai do for numbers, where they get increased weapon skill, increased attacks, and that kind of thing. But they've got 2 wounds each. They can take power fists, they've all got force weapons, they can all take combi weapons, and they're only 35 points a model. These guys are 25 points a model. So, it's not great. The points difference between the 2 squads essentially means this. I can take A lovely Thousand Suns Rhino. Which is cool. I could put the squad in a Rhino, pick a character that I like, put the character in the squad, and hey, you know, that's an aggressive assault unit. They can get around the battlefield nice and quick. With some of the other spare points I have remaining, I could go and look after other units, such as additional Rhinos. Keep in mind, the original list I did was under 2,500 points. But I have other Rhinos with, like, this one's one of the Rhinos I took to Siege Geigenhive, I think. But, yeah, different vehicles I could take in the army. That one would be Breaches, would probably be the first unit I put in one, because they just don't move as fast as Tacticals. I like to use Tactical squads to secure my backline, personally. So, a few different problems arise here, because the minute I start giving away HQs or segment, I start dropping power levels. I start losing what makes the Thousand Suns unique. That's problematic. I can't afford to be doing that. So that's them out of the picture. For other HQ options, the Praevian Consuls. I really want to use this guy because, well, he's got the Kopesh sword. I love the curved Kopesh blades. Plus, he's the newest painted consul for the army. So, you know, I want to use him. The other options I've got, I have one here who's actually kit-bashed out of a Delegatus miniature. I do have spare Praevians Delegatus. I bought a heap of them, just in case they stop producing, and I wanted to buy more, but since then they have stopped producing them, so not going to happen, I guess. But he has the benefit of the combat shield, which invul, which is nice, and also defensive grenades. So if the unit gets charged, people lose that charge bonus, which is a pretty big deal. If you can cut down the attacks of enemy Terminator squads by 1 per model, that's a big deal. And there's, of course, the original Praevian Consul I had for the army, which has a Power Fist. Yeah, not worth it, realistically, the Power Fist, so I can pretty much discount that one straight away. The Force Weapon is good. That allows me to chop down other monstrous creatures or characters instantaneously. That's a handy weapon. So that's what I think I'll end up going with. The boarding shield is just sort of min-maxing cheesy bullshit, which I don't really need. So straight away I've discounted a few units from this army. Hey, isn't that good? So, Mortis Dreadnoughts. Now, this is not a dual talent. This is a talent of 1 Dreadnought and 1 Dreadnought. Because Contemptors and regular Castaferums, like Box Dreads, can only be bought in talents of 1 if they're a Mortis. So, do I have 2 and have really good anti-aircraft? Or do I get rid of, say, 1, replace it with the Contemptor? Now, the Contemptor is very slightly more points, actually. But for that points, gets an invul save, has an additional point of frontal armor, has the Volkite Calvarians. These are a really strong unit. These twinning things, 46 inches range off the top of my head, or 42 inches range, over 40 anyway. Strength 6, AP 5 with Death Rate. 4 shots each, twin linked, on a ballistic skill 5 platform. Really good firepower. This Dreadnought puts out 8 shots. It pretty much messes up militia units, does hurt Solar Auxilia. Really strong against tech thralls. But that's about it. I really like it for the anti-horde ability, and this army is low on numbers, so cutting down enemy hordes is important. But at the same time, crack missiles. 2 of twin linked ballistic skill 5, and the 2 hunter killers. They're marine killers. So do I try and overwhelm with weight of fire from the Contemptor, or do I go with marine killing shots that I know will kill marines? See, this is where it gets difficult. And you are paying very similar points for these two, so it's not much changing out of war gear options, you know, like remove Artificer Armor or Power Fist here and there, and ta-da, you've made the points. So that one I'm struggling with. I really like the Box Dreads, especially because, again, I recently painted them, so I really want to use them. That's a lot of the problem here. Same as this Rhino. This Rhino's well, not recently painted. We're talking last year sometime, probably mid-year. But I've never used this rhino. So I want to use this rhino. I mean, like, you know, it's a nice looking rhino, isn't it? Nice metallic candy red. Looks like a hot rod. Alright, alternate Rites of War. Let's talk about that. So, Fury of the Ancients is one that I toyed with. Thing is, it's regular box dreads, not mortises, become troops, and regular contemptors become troops. They're not scoring units, and if they get killed, the other guy gets a victory point. I don't want to use them. That there is more points than one of these squads here by about a third. Significant amount. You're talking about 170 points or so next to 140 point units. So, yeah, not good. On top of that, if you want to run Fury of the Ancients, you need to run a Primus Medicae console. You need to run a Master of the Forge, and you need to run someone who can unlock the Warlord trait, which is either a Delegatus, the Rite of War, not the Warlord trait. My apologies. So a Delegatus or a Praetor. So that's the combination you need, that or that, basically, to run the Fury of the Ancients. Not ideal. I do that, then I lose access to the Praevian Consul, which I really want to run, because I want the Castellax. This gives me an alternative, however. If I have a Forge Lord in my army, I don't need a Praevian Consul to run Castellax. I can run them as a heavy support option instead. But if I do that, they can't take the Legionaries Astartes Thousand Suns special rule, which gets rid of the whole Psychic Automata thing I wanted to have going. So I've now got other problems, don't I? The more you think these things through, the more you start double guessing, second guessing yourself. So a different and probably better option for me, if I wanted to do something like that, would be to take the Brethren of Iron, something like that it's called, Warlord trait, where because you take a compulsory Master of the Forge, and again, someone who unlocks a Warlord trait, I keep saying Warlord trait, a Rite of War, which is a Delegatus, or a Legion Praetor, or even a Legion Herald can take a Rite of War, but they're a non-compulsory choice, so not ideal. Now, this guy has the Cortex Controller. Any other Tech Marines I add to the army can take a Cortex Controller. I can take Praevians, but it means I can't take other consuls anymore. So no Chaplains, no Librarians, any of that kind of thing. I can take regular Centurions, though. And they could be Psychic Centurions. It turns Domitar into an Elite's choice. Now, I built and painted in about 3 hours these 3 Domitar. Yes, I paint quickly. For those who want to know how I paint quickly, the trick is I know what colours I want to use. I know what order I want to put them on in. I have them mixed up already in pots, ready to go, and it's literally just a case of putting it on. I find it very quick to paint that way. So I did up these Zauercard Domitar. They've got like the lovely source lighting. Yeah, it's a thing. Really want to play them. Very, very expensive points for very mediocre return. Same size as a Contemptor Dreadnought, but lacks the firepower. These are very much a close combat unit. They're not the fastest unit to get there either. They don't have fleet or anything like that. They just have to walk slowly across the table. They need a Cortex Controller nearby, which means I need either a Praevian or a Master of the Forge nearby, and the Master of the Forge, he'll be busy with his Servo Automata. So basically I'd be having to run this guy and his squad down the table, with this guy and his squad running, 12 inches away. Not ideal circumstances. On top of that, yeah, points-wise, if I took these 3 Domitar, I'd have to scrap both of these Dreadnoughts, and I'd have to pretty much scrap one of these squads. Is that a good trade-off? In my opinion, no, that's not a good trade-off. To show you what they would look like, Let me just remove a bunch of models from the army. How depressing. So the list would end up looking something more like this. And that would be 2,500 points. Is that 2,500 points that I really want to run right there? It looks scary, it looks imposing, but let's think this through. Lots of wounds, yes. Lots of automata, which is cool, which is the theme. Very low scoring potential. 3 scoring units and that's it. That's shithouse. But as Thousand Suns, I can't take, like, I've got all these Zauer card units. I built this with the old style basing because I haven't finished rebasing it. This is some of my Silax. And some of my Thalax cohorts. So I built these Zauer card themed miniatures, again with the soul sliding, because, you know, something different. I can't ally them in. I'd much rather ally them in than take a Rite of War, but unfortunately, well, I could run them as allied detachment, but then that means I need to pay for a HQ. Here's the HQ I built for my Mechanicum. He's compensating for something, okay? I built this Scarab Abeyant, as I like to call it, which is the Archmagos Dracovic Abeyant strapped to a June Crawler from 40k, or June Strider, something like that. June Crawler, sounds right. Onaga June Crawler, I think it is. Yeah, strapped to the chassis of that, or the legs of that, which makes this really cool, imposing miniature. Completely impractical. Won't fit down corridors in Zone Mortalis, but of course the guy inside can hop out. So if I took these guys as an allied detachment now, well, I wouldn't need as many consoles as such, but I'd be further cutting down my scoring. Mechanicum scoring units are not really any cheaper than Legion ones, and they don't have power armor. While they may have higher toughness, such as the Thalax with the better mobility, they are bigger. They lack the toughness, they lack the arm saves of Marines. They don't have the same leadership abilities, so it creates other problems. That said, this list here, minus this guy of course, I'd be pretty keen to run. Probably not with a Delegatus. I think something like the Amon miniature as the consul. This could be a lot of fun. It looks scary. Don't get me wrong, it looks scary, but again, that whole fact that, you know, you've got very little scoring in here. 3 units to capture all your objectives. Harassing, I mean, you've got great potential harassing in this army. But what am I going to do with this guy? What's he going to join to for a unit? You can't join to the breaches, you can't join to the tactical squads because they got no transports. So it's kind of a waste running a Praetor, which is a real shame. He needs some sort of unit that he can buff and run with. So perhaps this force, maybe I'd have to take away one of the rocket bots and either replace it back with the second. In fact, the second are way too expensive. That's 200 points right there, 205 points I think. So probably the only choice would be Kenetai Blade Occult, or maybe, now I'm starting to think, a squad of veteran tactical marines in a Rhino running with the Praetor. That could work. That could be a fun list, because veteran tactical marines are a scoring unit, where Kenetai Blade Occult are not. And if I was going to do that, I'd probably be better served by taking either Plasma or Melta and taking machine killers, basically, for veterans. So that's where I'm at for this army at the moment. This is the evolution the Force takes. I go, what are the pros, what are the cons? What am I going to gain from this? What am I going to lose from doing this? And it's that trade-off, that constant trade-off you find where you're like, okay, I want to run this theme, and I want to run this, and I want to run this, and it's like, is it practical? And don't get me wrong, I don't care if I win or lose games. It's never really been important to me. I'm trying to tell a story whenever I play a game. You sit there with your mate having a good laugh about, you know, I can't believe this character did this and this character did that and that guy won that combat. But at the same time, you don't want to just get your pants pulled down and your dick kicked in because you took a stupid list. I had a mate, Rites, took what, a whole bunch of a whole bunch of scouts. Basically took a scout army to 40k tournaments with assault marines with storm shields and thunder hammers. I'm getting all dyslexic today, on my apologies. And he was just getting his dick kicked in every game. And it's like, yeah, it's a funny list, but do you want to get your dick kicked in every game? Not really. So, yeah, this I like. You could do something with it. It's got some Mechanicum big nasties. It's got some Thousand Suns nasties. It's a bit of everything. I really kind of want to play it now. So I might play around with it a little more. I've got 5 veterans I'm actually building at the moment who do have magnetized combi weapons. So that's probably what I'm going to end up doing. That'll give me 4 scoring units. In the heavy slot, I'll have 1, 2 units. Oh no, sorry, they'll be attached to the Praevian, never mind. So in the heavy, I'll have 1 unit. I'll have 2 elite choices. 3 with the veteran tactical squad, who could join with a Praetor. I'll have the Master of the Forge with his retinue of servitors with rad missile launchers. I'll have the Praevian and his squad, and of course the 3 scoring troops. Yeah. That's it. I think I've got a plan now. Right. Thanks everyone for watching. Watching me brainstorm through making an army list for the Horus Heresy, talking about the pros and the cons. If you can see a better way of integrating Mechanicum and Thousand Suns together, and keep in mind that the original theme for this army, I wanted to have it in reverse. Thousand Suns allied to Mechanicum. But it's just not practical. It's just cheaper just to take a Rite of War on a HQ instead of trying to ally in Mechanicum HQs and, you know, squads of troops and stuff like that. It's not worth it. If you can come up with a better way of making this sort of army list, please let me know. But I'm trying to maximise some of my psychic powers. Anyway, back with the Circle. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.